Hi guys, welcome to the game channel. So, you want to learn how to mine. Well, the first thing you're going to need to do is pick up a MISC Prospector. Right now, this is the only ship that can mine in the game. The MISC Prospector is a light mining ship. It's got 4 cargo pods that you'll eventually be able to remove and store in a cargo ship so that you can then install additional containers and continue mining. Right now, this is the only ship that can mine in the game. Unfortunately, you can't buy mining lasers and equip them to, say, a Constellation or a Cutlass. Hopefully someday we'll be able to do that. For the meantime, though, this really isn't a bad little ship. So the second thing you need to do is figure out where you want to mine. There's asteroid fields, there's moons. I personally choose to mine on a moon called Ariel. It's one of the moons that orbits Hurston. Ariel has 3 different materials that are on it: quartz, another one that starts with an H that I can't pronounce, and bexylite. Bexylite is the more rare and valuable resource on this moon. The other thing you want to know about this is the moon is extremely bright, so bright that you'll have trouble seeing the readouts on your HUD. So as you can see, I pointed the ship toward the darker section of the moon. I'm not going to land where it's black, but I'm going to land where it's dusk, at least in the beginning of this, so I can see my HUD, because once the sun hits, it washes out everything on the HUD, and you really need to see that information while you're mining. Once you reach the moon's surface, you're going to want your altitude to be roughly 150 to 200 meters. Then you're going to want to slow the ship down to probably about 100 meters per second. Once you slow down, the first thing you're going to want to do is press Tab. Tab is going to bring up your scanning reticle. And then you press the trigger button, the button that you normally use to fire your weapons, and that will enable you to scan the area. Now you see the blue dot to the left, it just disappeared. That's identifying where a mineable resource is. Once you get close enough to that resource, it's going to be outlined in yellow. All you have to do is get close enough to it, stay in scanning mode, make sure that you target it properly, and it will start to scan the rock so that it'll tell you what kind of resources are inside of it. In this particular case, we have over 1% of bexylite in this rock, so this one's going to be worth mining. Now, to enter mining mode, you press M. To fire the mining laser, you just pull the trigger button, same thing as your primary weapons. And if you're using a mouse, you use the scroll wheel on your mouse to throttle the laser. Now you'll notice in the bottom left of the HUD, there's a laser throttle indicator. Right now we're at like 58%. Below that, you're going to see rock energy level. So you want to keep the rock energy level in that green area of the readout. If you get it into the red, you're going to overcharge the rock, and if you overcharge the rock to 100%, or if you fracture the rock while it's overcharged, the rock's going to explode. You're going to not only lose materials, but it can damage or destroy your ship. Now, while you're throttling this laser, you're going to have to maneuver this, because you'll bring it up to, like we had it at 58% earlier, now it's at 18%, and you can kind of see me adjusting it there up and down a little bit right up until we fracture the rock. Now, the sections of the rock that can be extracted are highlighted in purple. You can scan those sections and then see what materials are in them and whether you want to extract those materials out of them. To enter extraction mode, right-click on your mouse or use the same button that you use to fire secondary weapons. That is, if you haven't remapped your keys. Once you finish extracting a rock, you want to scan the other sections of the rock just to make sure that there isn't anything valuable in the other fractures that are there. In some cases, you may have to fracture the rock some more. In other cases, you'll have more pieces of the rock that you can extract from. If there's nothing there that's valuable to you, then you can basically move on. So what does it take to have a profitable mining run? Well, it takes a lot of patience. You have to be willing to put in a good bit of time flying around and scanning the mineable material in the area that you're mining. I usually make between 10,000 to 25,000 credits per run. The way that you do that is you have to figure out what the rare resource is in the area that you're mining. So on Ariel, bexylite is the rare resource on this moon. Normally, if I'm trying to get a high payout, I won't mine a rock that has anything less than, I'd probably say 3% of bexylite in it. The highest I've ever seen is 7%, and that's only been a few times. I've seen 5% quite a few. But what's really nice is once you fracture that rock, you can scan those different fractures and see what the concentration is. In some cases, I've had fractures that have been as high as 80% Bexulite, and that's a really good yield to get out of a fractured piece of rock. Now, this particular rock has 0.10% of Bexulite. This is one of those cases where you just want to move on. If you fracture that rock, you're going to have such a low concentration of Bexulite, you're just going to simply wind up filling your cargo hold with inert material, which is completely worthless. You're also going to want to be familiar with what the mineable rocks look like. So they look like this on aerial. The scanners sometimes miss rocks, and this is one of the ones that the scanners missed, which is why I flew over it and then backed up. I'm really glad I stopped, though, because there's over 2% of Bexulite in this rock. So, to go over the mining process again. M to mine. Use your fire button to fire the laser. Use your scroll wheel on your mouse to increase the laser throttle. Watch the indicator on the bottom left of the HUD. Move the rock energy level into the green section of the indicator. Now, I didn't talk about the two indicators to the bottom right of the HUD. There's a fracture sensor, and then there's the overcharge sensor. So once I get this meter into that green area, you're going to see the fracture sensor going up. Now on the left, you see that I'm throttling back the mining laser. You don't want to wait until you reach the green section of the indicator to throttle the mining laser back. Usually once it starts to get close, that's when I throttle it back. And we're almost there. And there we go. So again, the pieces in purple are the ones that can be extracted. You'll want to scan those pieces and see what you've got in there. This has over 1% of Bexulite, so we're going to extract this one. You right-click to enter extraction mode, and you left-click to fire the extraction laser. Now you'll see your cargo capacity on the bottom right of the HUD increasing, and once you've got it, you scan the other fragments of the rock just to make sure you're not missing anything valuable. So in this case, 2.4% of Bexulite, that's pretty good. It's not great, but it's good. So we're going to extract that.
Scan complete.
That's a pretty big piece. There we go.
Scan initiated.
So this next piece of rock is outlined in yellow. That means that this needs to be fractured. So you right-click again to re-enter fracture mode. Just like before, you left-click to fire the laser. Now, you've got to be careful when you're doing these smaller pieces, because if you throttle that laser up right away, you're going to overcharge the rock in an instant. So you notice here, I've got this laser at right around 11% power, whereas before I was going a lot higher. It can take a little more time when you're doing these smaller pieces because you really do have to be careful with them. But if you're patient, you'll be able to get it right into the sweet spot and fracture them. Now what's nice about these smaller pieces is they do have higher concentrations in them. So this is 4.85%. I could fracture this and I could wind up with a fracture that has 20, 50, 80% of Bexulite in it. So I'll get more valuable material than inert material. So I figured I'd show you guys what it looks like when you overcharge a rock. So I've got the laser at 100%. It's pretty bright now. This is later while I was mining during the day. So you can't really see the overcharge sensor, but it's nearly at 100% already, and I'm backing off, and there it goes. It just exploded. Now, I was pretty far away from that rock. I normally would not mine a rock from that distance, and you saw how that thing flung me. Had I been on top of it like I normally am with a good rock, that would have either really damaged my ship and I could have lost my cargo, or it would have just destroyed my ship and, well, I would have also lost my cargo. So I'm just checking the ship here. You can't really see that screen, but the ship's okay. So by this point I'd been mining for a while. I did find several other rocks, but I did rush this, so I'm not going to have the same yield that I normally have when I sell this. But the next part of this video, I am going to show you guys where you sell the materials that you have mined. Now, where you need to go is pretty much universal. Whatever station you're at, whatever city you're at, you're going to need to find the administration offices. And I'm going to show you how to do that here in Lorville. So first thing, obviously land your ship. In Lorville, you're going to leave the space dock. You're going to need to go to the mass transit toward the Metro Center, which is where we're coming out right now. Now, obviously, well, you want to go toward the exit. I went the wrong way there. So you're going to keep running toward the exit. Now, if you don't know this, when you're in a city like Lorville or any kind of space station that supports oxygen, take off your spacesuit and wear civilian clothes. You can sprint for an unlimited amount of time. You never run out of breath. Your character runs out of breath because of the weight of the spacesuit. So anyway, you head up these stairs outside of the train station. And the administrative offices are just off to the right. You can see the sign at the top right hand corner of the screen. I'm kind of making sure it's in view there. So right past this little archway thing here and through this door. Now in this administrative office, there's two different sets of terminals. Those to the right, you want to come to these here on the left. So right now we're going to get to see how much money we made off of that run. Again, bear in mind, this was a quick run. So 6,700 credits, I mean, that's okay. It's not great. I didn't have a very high percentage of Bexylite. That was like 4%. I had a lot of inert material in there. The quartz is completely worthless. So had I taken a lot more time to do this and had 10, 15% of Bexylite, I would have done a heck of a lot better. But that's really it. You come to these terminals, you sell it, and then you've got your credits. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks for watching, guys.